Dude, I'm so sick and tired of you bitching about everything. And here you are coming in like, oh, you guys, it was such a bad team. Dude.
These are the most disrespectful contestants from MasterChef. And this chef right here, although talented, turned out to be a jerk. Now, David from season 7 was just plain awful. From throwing bottles to insulting people and justifying it all as his passion for winning, this dude was seriously messed up. It's unbelievable they brought him back and even placed him in the final. That kind of attitude is seriously off-putting. What really got to me was how he kept using his daughter as an excuse. But the moment things didn't go his way, he was all set to throw a tantrum and give up. So, in episode 16, it was all about showcasing a single ingredient picked by a visiting family member aiming for restaurant-quality dishes. Each of the 5 chefs received their unique ingredient. Dan got blackberries, Brandy worked with corn on the cob, Tenoria had peaches, David tackled cherries, and Sean was handed Parmesan Reggiano. After an intense 60 minutes of cooking, the judges narrowed it down to a top 3, Dan, Tenoria, and Sean. The big victory of the day belonged to Sean. His dish propelled him into the top 4, earning him not just a win, but also a fun and rather dramatic advantage over his fellow contestants. Now, in the elimination challenge, the remaining contestants were granted the liberty to handpick any 20 ingredients they desired to craft what they hoped would be the perfect meal to impress the judges. Sounds like a breeze for a MasterChef challenge, right? Well, that's exactly the trap they walked into. Just as they returned with their brimming shopping baskets, Dan, Tenoria, David, and Brandy were hit with the bombshell. They wouldn't be using the carefully selected ingredients they had chosen. Instead, they were about to embark on a cooking marathon using the ingredients from someone else's basket.
Someone else's dream basket. And those ingredients you just picked out soon be someone else's nightmare.
Devious? Absolutely. But also wonderfully diabolical, don't you think? To add an extra layer of intrigue, Sean was granted the power to shuffle these baskets around, deciding whose ingredients each chef would have to work with.
I'm just saying you don't make sense.
Dude, it's a competition. You've been playing your strategy.
David's fiery temper reared its ugly head once more, but this time, it was a full-blown eruption. He had his heart set on dazzling the judges with a homemade pasta creation. However, when he was handed Dan's basket filled with a jumble of Asian-based ingredients and a package of smoked trout, David went off the rails.
You get protein and then I get this and no,
It's pretty unnerving to witness, as he unleashed a string of curses aimed at Sean for the basket selection and Dan for choosing ingredients that seemingly stumped David. In a dramatic move, he stormed off in protest.
David's walking out.
David.
But Chef Ramsay intervened, chasing after him and persuading him to get back to the kitchen. The burning question was, why? If David's default reaction to setbacks is an explosive meltdown, why not let him exit like the quitter that he is?
I am not going to let you walk out of this competition like that. You are better than that.
However, was he? He attempted to make amends, attributing his outburst to earlier emotions from seeing his daughter. However, that doesn't excuse his behavior. I was shocked to see him walk out on Chef Ramsay, ignoring the calls to come back.
David, come here. David.
The sheer arrogance. And then, Ramsay actually went to the lengths of making him return, mind-boggling.
What you've done and where you've come from in this competition to see you walk through that door now.
Why did he have to stroke his already bloated ego?
Out those ingredients. Come on, you are not going to quit.
Honestly, I was shocked to see him getting babied by Chef Ramsay of all people.
He has no respect for anybody except himself. Be here to compete with integrity or get the hell out of the kitchen.
Well, exactly my point. But here comes another contestant who hit a rough patch during the competition. You see, Tony had very little screen time but very noticeable screw-ups. For instance, in episode 6, Tony had a hard time with the hamburger and seasoning that messed up the timing and flow for the blue team.
Just bland. That was bland.
He was making the mix without even tasting it. Not to be rude, but that was stupid. Not surprising why they were lagging behind on the burgers.
Making people wait for burgers is not going to win the competition. It's not going to get you votes.
And, well, the team ultimately lost. But then came the much-dreaded pressure test. All 8 competitors had 60 minutes to whip up spinach ricotta ravioli. And when time was up, the judges tasted each dish.
It's just so thick and so heavy.
Yeah, Tony once again dropped the ball. It was too dense.
I'm struggling with the thickness of the pasta. It's all here.
Joe also mentioned how he struggled to even eat it.
to eat this because, quite frankly, what this dish should be is a ravioli that looks something like this.
I mean, this dish eventually got him eliminated.
You have a very passionate take on food.
But you know what? I cannot stand that smug smirk on Max's face. I have to mention this though. After the show, Tony was really successful. He had a restaurant named Old Crow Smokehouse that has 2 locations and survived the pandemic. But sadly, he isn't with us anymore. Well, rest in peace, my man. Meanwhile, let's move on to the next contestant on the list. In Season 8 of MasterChef, things really started to heat up for the top 10. The contestants were given mystery boxes brimming with some of California's finest ingredients. We're talking Santa Barbara prawns, sea urchin, wasabi, avocado, grapefruit, you name it. They had a top-tier version of it in that box. These ingredients were carefully selected to honor the guest judge for the night, Jonathan Waxman, who is a culinary legend if you're not familiar with him. And impressing a guy like Waxman? Not a walk in the park.
Must use all 5 of those Californian ingredients. All 5.
And yes, you guessed it, all 5 ingredients were mandatory. But as usual, there was a twist. Working with prawns can be nerve-wracking since they're delicate and prone to overcooking. I'm sure most of you have had the misfortune of eating rubbery, bland shrimp before. However, Chef Ramsay had a stroke of genius. He suggested making sea urchin butter and brushing it on the grilled prawns. And guess what? Tay was already on it. Throughout the challenge, the judges made their rounds, offering advice and cheering the cooks on. That's when Joe had an unexpected spicy encounter at Tay's station.
The sauce, so it's got a little kick to it. So I'm gonna do. I've got the avocado crema right here.
But Tay, he wasn't fazed at all. He was brimming with confidence and couldn't wait for the judges to taste his dish. Meanwhile, Joseph found himself in a bit of a predicament with Chef Ramsay.
Look at the clock. Why are you cooking the spot prawns now with 35 minutes?
Talk about jumping the gun. This move could definitely land him in the bottom 3.
Please. These were going to get you in the bottom 3 for sure, so you need to figure out another plan.
Hey.
Joseph had no choice but to scramble and look around for more prawns.
Whatever.
Extra prawn. Thank you.
How do you need them, Joe?
Hey.
Luckily, he managed to score a few spare prawns from Anne and Lexi. But by this point, Joseph was totally flustered and the judges were keeping a close eye on him. Then, just as things were wrapping up, the worst possible thing happened.
Bro, you forgot one ingredient. I left my uni butter in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I can't believe Tay left the star of his dish, the prawns, in the refrigerator. Classic rookie mistake. Unsurprisingly, Tay found himself in the bottom 3. His dish was incomplete after all, but the judges wanted to give him a chance anyway.
After you, chef. Please, thank you.
And guess what? With the uni butter, his dish was spot on.
See, the grapefruit, beautiful. I'm screaming.
Chef Ramsay complimented the deliciously cooked prawns, and Chef Waxman suggested that if Tay hadn't forgotten the butter, it would have taken the dish to the next level. It was pretty clear that Tay didn't have the worst dish of the night. That honor belonged to Joseph.
You didn't do the task we asked you to do. Create a California-inspired dish.
None of the judges seemed to like what Joseph presented, especially Chef Waxman.
So, I'm flummoxed.
It's a dish gone wrong.
And Joe? Well, you can already guess his reaction.
What a waste.
Thank you, Joseph.
Although Joseph's dish was the worst, Tay had broken a rule by not using all 5 ingredients. And well, if you watch Season 7, you know what happens to rule breakers.
Tay, you made the sea urchin butter, but you didn't use it.
So, despite serving up the best dish of the night, Tay found his MasterChef journey coming to an end, just like Andrea before him. Well, but rules are rules, right? Moving on, here comes another dish which stirred up quite the controversy. After winning the Mystery Box 1, Derek took the reins for the Elimination Challenge. While he didn't have to cook, he had the power to choose what everyone else would make. Christina Tosi mentioned that the challenge would involve something everyone digs out from the depths of their freezer eventually. Derek had to choose one, and the cooks would have an hour to create an elevated version of any of the 3.
Staple in our house.
This was the very first frozen TV dinner ever produced.
Back in the kitchen, the cooks discovered their fate.
Delicious Salisbury.
Yum! As for Veronica, she looked stoked.
So excited! I've been eating TV dinners for 59 years.
Someone get this woman some shares in Swanson or Hungry Man. Christina gently pointed out to Veronica that her previous presentations were often lacking and asked what she was planning to do differently tonight.
Had something that's delicious from you. Our biggest critique always comes down to.
But the latter was super confident.
About it is it's already set for me. It's a TV dinner, so it's going to look like a TV dinner.
Both Christina and Graham were silenced into sheer horror haha, and understandably so. She completely misunderstood the assignment.
You did hear the point that we said we want something elevated.
Veronica acknowledged she did, but it was clear she wasn't too concerned. She mentioned her grandkids were eager to hear praise from the judges, while she distractedly looked into a pot and waved the judges away dismissively.
You guys say awesome.
Please keep in mind presentation elevation.
Yeah, we'll see. In fact, Hetal too had no clue what the dish was supposed to taste like, so she decided to throw in a bunch of Indian spices that usually paired well with meat.
Vegetarian TV dinner, where are we going?
I'm a Hindu vegetarian. I don't even know what the Salisbury steak is supposed to taste like.
Oh boy, that's a kitchen nightmare. Now, Chef Ramsay shot back with a wise suggestion.
Okay, but you can ask somebody else to taste it. But you've got the final decision. Good luck.
Shortly after, the challenge ended, and it was time for the tasting. Hetal was up and bluntly admitted her dish looked awful, saying she wouldn't want to serve it to anyone.
I'm ashamed. I don't want to serve this to anyone. Maybe I'll trip and fall and they won't be able to eat it.
Sadly, that didn't happen, and her assessment was spot on. Her creation looked even worse than a TV dinner, which seemed impossible.
Spiced Salisbury steak with broccoli and mac and cheese.
She launched into a nervous rant and urged him not to eat it. Ramsay didn't hold back, agreeing that it was as bad as she feared.
I'm going to cut straight to the chase. It's depressing. Mac and cheese tastes watery.
So basically, it had no redeeming quality whatsoever. Hetal started crying, blaming her focus on the meat for neglecting the sides. Chef Ramsay reminded her that other vegetarians had done well before, then sent her back to her station to continue her teary meltdown.
Gone on to the top 10, top 5 and done bloody well, so...
Then came Veronica.
With a delicious wine and mushroom sauce.
It looked like she raided Old Country Buffet's trash, scooped up the worst bits and dumped them into bowls. The result was sloppy to say the least. Oblivious as always, she smiled while placing her concoction in front of Chef Ramsay, who sighed deeply. He pointed out that she completely missed the objective, and she looked genuinely shocked. How could she be surprised when Christina had literally warned her about this just minutes ago?
To cook one portion of a TV dinner. Elegant, upscale.
Again, Chef Ramsay reminded her about refining her dishes into something simple and classy. Veronica, however, thought she had nailed it.
Last 3 or 4 weeks have I asked you to refine things down.
The delusion! Chef Ramsay then drained what seemed like a gallon of liquid from the bowl of broccoli and groaned.
The water has wilted out of the broccoli.
I'm done.
So, in conclusion, her grandkids wouldn't be proud.
A Vegas buffet, and 3 compartments of it has been filled up with puke.
Veronica was devastated, still unable to understand, and now hoped someone else would mess up even worse so she wouldn't be sent home.
Gordon said, I am completely devastated.
Veronica's wish might have come true, thanks to Jesse.
I could plate a little better, but I think it's, all the flavors are there. I showed a lot of techniques.
Now, Chef Ramsay wasn't about to sugarcoat it.
I have to say, it's one of the most bizarre looking dishes of the night.
The venison looked dry, and the pickled broccoli wrapped in prosciutto resembled some strange, unappetizing New Age toy rather than food. Upon tasting, Chef Ramsay declared the meat was dry.
Jesse, it's like swallowing a mouthful of sand. It is seriously dry.
Try arguing back like this in Hell's Kitchen. I can't believe how easily Chef Ramsay let him off the hook.
When venison turns from red to bright white, it's dry.
The bottom 3 were called up: Hetal, Jesse, and Veronica. Unsurprisingly, Veronica was sent home for repeatedly missing the mark.
Please take up your apron and go ahead and leave it on your bench.
I mean, Christina basically told you point blank that if you served that, you'd will go home, but she still doubled down and did it anyway. The challenge was to elevate a TV dinner, but she did everything she could to make it look like a real one. Chef Ramsay then revealed some shocking news. While the good news was they were down to the top 15, the bad news was...
we're about to go down to 14.
He addressed Hetal, acknowledging her significant stumble, and then turned to Jesse.
Looked like a petulant teenager.
I don't want to lose this competition.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, Jesse was also dismissed.
But that level of disappointment into food, it just tastes awful.
But nothing beats the clash between 2 hotheads like Jesse and Chrissy.
I'm stuck with the thing.
So there's Jesse, all geared up for the next challenge. Little did she know, she'd be facing a way bigger challenge right then and there. If you haven't caught on yet, it's when Jesse and Chrissy got stuck together and things got real tense. Their shaky bond was about to go south real quick. And when she found out she'd be teamed up with Chrissy today, she couldn't hide her disappointment. Can you blame her? Chrissy's reputation was on the rise by then. And then that accidental slip of the tongue? Yeah, not helping matters.
Nightmare just happened right before my eyes. I'm stuck.
Uh-oh indeed. But hold up, because here's where it gets messy. Jessie didn't just escalate things. She took it to a whole new level, calling Chrissy, well, let's hear her say it.
Staying down there with that cow.
Way to poke the bear, Jessie. Was it a bit much? Maybe. But hey, when you're stuck working with someone like Chrissy, tensions run high. It's tough to keep a lid on it, you know?
I'm excited about a pressure test because I'm excited to send this cow home.
Personally, I think calling her a cow was crossing the line. Remember how I didn't like Ramsay's weight jokes in earlier Hell's Kitchen seasons? Still not a fan. But hey, Jessie didn't have me in her ear warning her about the situation. She let loose. She called it as she saw it, and honestly, the only thing I disagreed with here was the way she was attacking Chrissy. She was right on the money about a lot more than I'm willing to admit. As for Chrissy, well, she didn't take too well to the shoe being on the other foot for her. Of course she was gonna react that way. I'm sure even the folks who were half watching the show and scrolling on their phones or something could have told you that. Now, maybe this time, Chrissy wasn't entirely in the wrong. Maybe, but that was all gonna change as soon as the next episode came around.
That's the truth.
I
was the worst on the team.
It's not, you can't take it personally.
Again, Chrissy was probably the biggest drama magnet the show's ever seen. And she wasn't about to change for anybody.
There should have been more communication.
In the moment, we all agreed on everything.
It's safe to say that Chrissy had a problem with everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if she had one of those creepy bulletin boards with all the red yarn and darts thrown at everyone's pictures.
But the minute we get in front of them, everybody's tune changes.
Now, in the group discussion, Chrissy didn't calmly say her piece. Instead, she went in guns blazing. Metaphorically speaking, of course. But if you only saw her face, I'm sure you'd be forgiven for thinking she was actually firing on her fellow contestants.
That's the truth.
I
was the worst on the team.
It's not, you can't take it personally.
She made sure everyone knew she felt like she was the one getting hurt. Because it's always about Chrissy, of course. The room started to feel tight as she kept arguing her points, not caring about how much chaos she was causing all the while. Then, things got really intense when Chrissy started swearing at Savannah.
Maybe we should put the tortillas on the grill, and you were like, oh, okay.
How did I tell you to cook them, though?
Yeah, watching Chrissy let out her anger was hard to watch at even the best of times. And we're working with the worst here.
You said don't burn them or we won't be able to fold them.
No, I didn't say that.
Is what you said.
Everyone was shocked by how harsh Chrissy's words were, but she seemed like she didn't care at all. In fact, she was just getting started.
You didn't tell me to cook them.
I said to cook them almost burnt.
Things got worse when Chrissy was finally asked about her behavior. Ooh, rookie mistake, guys. Because instead of calming down or feeling sorry, she only got angrier. But Bree refused to give in.
Shut the up. I'm done.
Chill out, Chrissy. For real.
And well, every second that passed, the crazier things got.
You too, dude.
I didn't say it was
Who were you? What did you do on the team?
But hold on, it wasn't over yet. Because if there was ever another notch to take the situation up, Chrissy was gonna find it.
Shut the up,
Really? What are you gonna do?
Good.
I hope you can't sit here.
Yeah, your ears aren't deceiving you here.
You can't sit here and talk things out like an adult. All you ever want to do is hit everyone in the face.
1 minute.
I mean, that was totally out of line. But when it comes to the wildest, weirdest, and downright unforgettable moments, this next contestant truly takes the cake.
This is a joke.
I don't know what to say. You know I'm not a rabbit.
In episode 4 of season 4, during the Langoustine challenge, Howard was feeling pretty confident about his dish. But when Ramsay reminded everyone that one contestant would have to leave the show, guess who he singled out as the weakest link? You've gotta see this. Sometime later, when Howard proudly presented his dish, Ramsay couldn't believe his eyes. To make things worse, Ramsay was shocked when Howard slowly slid half of his dish, nothing but sliced lemons, right into the trash. Ramsay had a big question for him, right? But the drama didn't end there. There's more for you to see. Ramsay called on the other judges to evaluate Howard's dish, though Ramsay himself refused to taste it. But guess what? Joe had something else on his mind. He not only trashed the dish. I mean, that bit was inevitable, but he went on to warn Howard that if it were up to him, he'd eliminate him right then and there. Howard's hopes of impressing the judges were shattered in an instant. Honestly, I'm surprised how he didn't see it coming. Now, Astrid over here immediately came into the game with a hell of an attitude.
Signature dish is coriander crusted shrimp because I'm from Louisiana.
But despite all the confidence, her dish didn't make it to the top in the first round.
You 9, please come down to the front.
Sure, she flashed those pearly whites and played nice with her fellow cooks, but when it came to her actual cooking chops, let's just say hers were more of a flop. As for mistakes, well, she had more than her fair share. And don't even get me started on her hygiene habits.
Look at Astrid's
station.
Which probably explains why she was among the exclusive club of contestants to spend the shortest time on the show.
Here we go. I'm going home. Back to my 4 children.
And like I said before, she was coming into the show with some serious heat. Just not where it counted.
So, which of us 3 do you challenge?
Well, you have to give it to her. I never expected her to challenge Chef Ramsay like that. But this challenge was going to be quite different from the others.
Things that you would find in millions of homes across America. Bacon.
And what did she do with all these ingredients? She went full-on food fight, literally throwing peels and scraps around without a care in the world. And honestly, it wasn't even really fun to watch. Just all sorts of disgusting. I mean, it almost looks like she did it deliberately. What do you think? Christian straight up called her out, asking if that chaos was her usual cooking style at home. And well, can we even blame him for that now? And then Joe swooped in to shut down the madness and give her a stern warning about those less than appetizing working conditions.
Everyone listen up a second. We're not going to tolerate disgusting working conditions.
Yeah, not exactly Michelin star material. I mean, nowhere close. But guess what she had to say about it?
But all I know is that right now, Astrid, you've got to focus.
Well, they sure do, but I'm sure nobody's come across anyone as messy as you before. Anyway, after all the mess that she made, here's what happened during the tasting.
Seasoned, lemon, totally unnecessary. Overall, the flavor's there. Thank you.
And well, she eventually managed to get the apron, but Joe wasn't about to let her go without a warning.
Thank you.
Good dish, but clean it up in the kitchen.
He was so ready to put up a fight. He even mentioned that had it been his restaurant, she would have gotten the boot right away. Now, it should be obvious that Astrid wasn't out of the woods yet. During the Desert Mystery Box Challenge, she revealed something that left Chef Ramsay stunned.
Feeling?
Nervous. I don't bake, Chef.
You've never baked?
Yeah, turns out it was her first time baking. Not surprising why when her lemon tarts came out, things took a sour turn. Literally.
Lemon tart with lavender.
Yeah, when someone stutters while presenting their dish, it's already a bad sign. And if that wasn't proof enough, what should be is the fact that Chef Ramsay started to question her basic cooking skills.
That's raw, right?
Oh, and he decided to give her a reality check for good measure.
To understand where we can go with you.
And when Graham got a taste, he nearly chipped a tooth on those rock-hard pastries.
Pastry might not be your strength.
Long story short, Astrid found herself in the dreaded bottom 2, standing alongside Cutter. And if you know anything about Cutter, you know how bad a look that is.
Whose journey will continue in MasterChef.
It certainly sounded like the judges had absolutely no hope for her, and in turn, Chef Ramsay the exit comment short and sweet.
We don't feel the desire. Please, take your apron off and leave the MasterChef kitchen.
But hey, at least she owned up to her baking blunder and vowed to practice like a pro for next time.
The day, I understand. I own it. Maybe I should have read some more recipes.
Not that there was gonna be one for her, but hey, I respect the sentiment. Anyway, while Astrid walked out of the MasterChef kitchen, there was a buzz all over the internet. Remember the clip from earlier where it looked like she was deliberately tossing the food around?
Yeah, bread. Sweet potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Plenty of people noticed the same and thought it was proof that the show was scripted. I mean, who would think that it was a good idea to literally throw their scraps to the floor in a place like the MasterChef kitchen? And I don't think anyone cooks like that, no matter where they are. But what do you think? Was she just messy, being disrespectful, or did she get played somehow? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Shanika, oh boy, where do I even start?
My name is Shanika. I'm 34 years old. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I am an event promoter.
I mean, that didn't seem so bad. But no, seriously, name a contestant she didn't butt heads with.
Everybody up there on that balcony trying to throw me off my game by taking 5 minutes away from me.
Boy, was she self-confident. Throughout the season, Shanika brought the fire, and not just in her cooking. She was a force to be reckoned with, oozing passion and skill like nobody's business. And we could see that. But when it came to team challenges, let's just say she wasn't exactly everyone's cup of tea. Her teammates saw her as a lone wolf, with vibes so negative they could have clouded up the whole kitchen. Like, take this time for instance, when she wasn't all that happy with Chelsea being the captain, and it showed.
Maybe you made some friends, maybe you made some enemies, maybe you made a pie.
Let's see how she was towards Chelsea.
I'm happy with the cook on the crust, but I guess a little anger got in me.
Plus, when her squad was in hot water, she was the lifeguard pulling them to safety. And don't even get me started on her no-filter attitude. Shanika was like a walking truth bomb, unafraid to speak her mind. And it wasn't surprising that people hated her.
Who don't you want?
Who don't I want?
Yeah.
Miss Shanika.
And guess who found themselves at the receiving end of her passive aggression? Well, Judy, of course.
Your duck breast with orange zest, mashed potatoes.
Whoa, that was a whole lot of hatred packed into one scene. But Shanika had problems with pretty much everyone around. Like, she is also known for not getting along with Emily despite ending up in the same team.
Pork, I think, is an easier go when it comes to marking, finish in the oven.
Pork or salmon now. You can't really tell if they're trying to find the right way or just trying not to get their ego bruised.
Pork go really well with balsamic. If we do,
no balsamic.
If we throw balsamic in it.
So here's what went down. Shanika was pretty much coming up with some or the other reason to drop Emily's ideas.
We need a plan B, period. We need a plan B.
This is going to be a battle.
Oh no, they really couldn't get along. However, as a result of their ego clashes, the food was getting compromised.
The pork chops are at the same time being burnt and undercooked. Oh my god, guys.
What's more, Shanika didn't do well under leadership, and one thing followed another, and things only kept getting worse.
It's like to be safe up on the balcony, and that's the best feeling on the face of the planet.
But there came a time when Emily wanted to compete against Shanika.
That I'm strong and I'm determined. You want to battle it out? Let's fight.
Crazy how they both were so determined to try out their luck.
I'm feeling good. I mean, it is what it is. I guess that's what you get for being opinionated and speaking your mind.
However, it does take a lot to still take up a challenge despite being allergic to the main ingredient, and we gotta appreciate that. But guess what? Amidst all the chaos, there as one constant. The hateful comments coming through for each other.
Shanika has maybe overstayed her welcome.
Overstayed my damn welcome.
Anyway, after all the drama, both of them finally served their Black Forest cake. And here's how it went for Emily.
My cake fellow.
Wow.
I think I recovered nicely, but disaster struck today.
Now, surprisingly, Joe wasn't being too overly critical.
Perhaps because of the depth of my cake layers, but also because I made sure to have a nice layer of whipped cream between all 4 of my layers.
But when Joe sliced into the cake and lifted it up, here's how Emily reacted to her own cake.
How does that look?
Not as great as it could look.
And when he took a bite, this is what he had to say.
It's very, very moist and has a very assertive chocolate flavor, which I like.
However, there was one flaw he couldn't ignore.
The cream, the ratio is way off.
Now, Aaron was the next judge to step up for the tasting, and this is how he reacted. Well, there were positives, and there were negatives, and things could eventually go in any direction. But wait, it was time to taste Shanika's cake, and Chef Ramsay couldn't wait to get started. However, even before he dug into the cake, he had a question for her.
Emily's weighing out her tins to the absolute gram, and you're just putting it in with the eye.
Chef Ramsay was quite taken aback by her reply. It was an audacious move to go in blind. But let's see how it turned out to be.
Wow, look at that.
Yes, it looked perfect. And well, it tasted pretty good too.
Delicious. It really is delicious. It's rich. It's nicely soaked.
So guess who ended up winning this?
MasterChef Kitchen is Emily.
That was tough. Even though Emily was the one who challenged Shanika, Shanika really did manage to win. You see, Shanika's Reddit reviews are a mixed bag. Some folks are totally on her side, saying she got a raw deal in Season 9. They reckon she was made out to be bossy, when really she was just trying to steer the ship right during team challenges. Plus, they dig her no-nonsense attitude, preferring it over people who beat around the bush. Others agree she had a point, but think maybe she could have softened her delivery a bit. Still, lots of fans think she's got serious cooking chops and should have gone further in both seasons. Overall, it's a bit of a toss-up, but Shanika definitely had her fair share of supporters. Unlike this next contestant right here, Tali Clavio's time on MasterChef was nothing short of a culinary catastrophe. From the moment he stepped into the kitchen, it was clear that he was severely out of his depth, struggling to execute even the most basic cooking techniques. His journey on the show was marked by a series of disastrous dishes that left the judges and viewers alike questioning how he had made it as far as he did.
Looks like Tali has never made risotto before.
I think Tali is kind of really out of it.
Tali's first major blunder came in the risotto challenge. Tasked with preparing a classic Italian dish, Tali managed to turn it into an unrecognizable mess, adding ingredients that had the judges scratching their heads. Tali believed that Joe was the key to the MasterChef title, but would the tough man be impressed? Joe Bastianich, known for his no-nonsense approach, was clearly unimpressed with Tali's creation, and it was evident that the young chef was in over his head.
what you did on that dish is inappropriate and ultimately kind of disgusting.
As the competition progressed, Tali's struggles only intensified. His scary crab dish was a disastrous attempt at showcasing his skills, with the judges lambasting him for his lack of understanding of flavors and technique.
I'm sorry.
Ryan, what'd you do to this?
In fact, let's not forget that Tali called himself a genius when the judges and other contestants outsmarted him. He's basically the original Cutter, but worse. I mean, this dude doesn't even know anything about flavor.
Did you want to send him home?
No.
The low point of Tali's journey came during the lava cake challenge, where he presented a fake molten lava cake that was anything but. The judges were appalled by his inability to execute a simple dessert, and many felt that he should have been eliminated at that point instead of the unfortunate Ryan.
I think it was a touch underdone.
Tali's downward spiral continued with his disastrous pizza and an ugly-looking crappy Arctic char, further solidifying his reputation as one of the worst contestants to ever grace the MasterChef kitchen.
What the hell are these judges, basing this on?
I love this cake.
What made Tali's journey even more frustrating for viewers was his unwavering confidence and delusions of grandeur. He constantly referred to himself as a genius, even as the judges tore his dishes apart. This arrogance only served to further antagonize the other contestants and the audience, who were left wondering how someone with such a poor grasp of cooking could be so self-assured. In the end, Tali's time on MasterChef came to a merciful end, but not before he had cemented his legacy as one of the worst contestants in the show's history. As one Reddit user aptly put it, Tali Clavijo is more like Tali Crap-Ijo. His journey was a cautionary tale of what can happen when someone with a severely limited skill set tries to take on the challenges of a high-stakes cooking competition. While Tali's time on MasterChef may have been a disaster, it was a stark reminder that passion and confidence alone are not enough to succeed in the culinary world. True mastery comes from a deep understanding of techniques, flavors, and the ability to execute under pressure qualities Tali sorely lacked. His journey may have been a train wreck, but it captivated viewers and solidified his place as the worst contestant ever to grace the MasterChef stage.
One space.
It's not in one space, it's from there all the way down and all over the place.
So, can you think of more times when chefs were disrespectful on MasterChef? Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And if you thought this video was crazy, then make sure to check out the next video right here. It's even better.